You are listening to the Brain Profits Podcast. We bring awareness to the reality that, in large, people allow their brains to control them, which is causing difficulty at school, at work, and in life.
Success in life and business starts in the brain. Therefore, we want to explore the challenges that exist for people and organizations so that they are in control of their brains and not the other way around.
Listen in, be inspired, and take back control of your brain, and you'll create optimal results in your life, organization, and community.
Ready to start the show? We are, so let's go.
But if they want me at their thing, they can wait until August of 2020 when I have time to sit down, look at all the options, and like really plan out a more balanced year. Like we're talking, I went from, I forget all the February, but I was in 2 places. And then I was in Cambodia in March when the pandemic happened, and I was leading a retreat there. And I was literally supposed to be home for 4 days to be in London, then home for 2 weeks to be in Canada, home for 2 days to be in Australia, New Zealand. And like, it just kept going, right? That was all before June of 2020. And so when the pandemic happened, and I literally was watching every single contract get canceled. And of course they all wanted refunds. So that was its own overwhelming thing. But I remember thinking, you said you wanted 2020 to be lighter. You got what you wanted. Next time, be more specific. I would like it to be lighter and the money.
So 2020 was your fault. Is basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, but I remember saying to myself, this is what you wanted. So what are you going to do with this? And I was really intentional about it. But I also had the awareness going into it. And I don't know that everybody had it. And also you said the word forced, and we all know, you're all doctors, right? When people are forced to do something, do they do it? Think of really, do they even take the medicine they're supposed to take? Right. So I think that's just it. And so even though we're forced and I know they're misaligned, that they don't want to feel that way. So what are they doing to ignore that?
That's interesting.
I love that I'm a doctor now. Can I just?
Doug is definitely not a doctor.
I shook my head no.
I know I know that was digging at Philippe a little bit.
Oh,
Doug
sorry,
definitely not a doctor.
You're the doctor, and they're the buddies. Okay.
We're the low life that just hangs out around him. No.
Well, you're all business owners. You all know.
Yeah, that is true.
But you know what that makes me think about? Actually, when you talk about the misalignment and how everybody sort of went back, I think there were a lot of people that did have plans to change their lives, right? But you think about the pandemic, there was a lot of illness, obviously, and then there was people lost a lot of money. And so I think in some ways people had to be forced to go back to the lives that they lived before, certainly not wanting to. And now you have this added thing where it's like, wow, I really have no control, right? Because what I planned for, and so I think it's that much harder. Even when I watched my kids in school this year, I was like, man, this was a tough school year for them.
Yeah.
Emotionally, right? Going back, right? Tough for the teachers going back.
Yeah.
So I think it was just really tough because there's this sense of, well, that's not really how I want to live my life. That's not how I want to learn. That's not how I want to teach, but I have no options.
I have an option. I believe that. And I see that. I see that in my family members too. And what I also know from how the people that I teach Pilates to, and then I teach them on demand. So I'm not even live with them. I had in the year of 2021, I had 3 people who told me that they were able to quit their job and get a better job. And they attribute it to showing up for themselves every day on the mat and doing hard things and showing themselves that this may be hard, but I can do this. And so I think also, yes, and there are plenty of people out there. I'm sure I'm going to get a DM. You had no other choice. And I believe it. And there's so many people on this planet. There are definitely people who had no choice. But I actually think there are people who do have choice who are not, that it's going to be hard work. And so, but then they're not ready for that. But if you were connecting to your body every day, even for a few minutes, you would actually see just how freaking awesome you are, how strong you are, how much more capable you will give yourself credit for. But if you're not connected to you don't have that. You don't have the data to show that. So of course that's that you have, you feel like you don't have options. But I think I really am so proud of those women who like stood up to their boss and said, hey, I can actually do really hard things. You're not giving me credit for it. And this job over here will. And so, and they sent me these letters, and it's like, that's why we do this. We do this to help remind people of just how capable they are. And, I don't know how we get more people to actually understand that they actually have to connect to themselves, but that's really scary stuff because people prefer not to, right? Like people
Yeah.
prefer to not. My friend's a doctor, more like of gastrointestinal, and she's like, Lesley, you'd be surprised how many people don't know how long they've been in pain with their stomach. Years, because they're just not connected to it. So I don't know how it would help them, but I wish more people would see that there is options and they have them, and it might just be harder than they want it to be right now.
Yeah, I think a lot about our society would have to change, I think, in order for that to happen. If in your view, I'm guessing in your view, when you went from Pilates to mindset coaching, how did you make that transition?
Yeah. So I got really
or addition.
Yeah. So I started as a Pilates teacher. So I had a degree in communications and I worked in retail, and then I became a Pilates instructor. And what I kept seeing was people paying for packages, like a lot of money. I worked in LA and I got to teach a lot of people, and I just see them pay and then not show up for it. Like literally late cancel. Late canceling means they signed up and they didn't cancel, and the time they literally threw money at me, right? Which is fine. But like even the fact that they could lose $115 didn't get them to show up for themselves. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, what's going on here? Because it's like, yeah, who doesn't want an hour off and paid for it? But like, I don't want that. I want you to get the benefits. I want you to get what you signed up for. So I had to go down like this whole like research thing to figure out what that was. So I did mindset coaching. And then that led me into the habits training, because really like the mindset is one thing, but it can be a little esoteric for some people and a little bit ethereal. So I wanted, like, how do I make it more tangible? And then that's when I studied with BJ Fogg to figure out habits, because what you do as a habit is really just part of your mind, like helps do mindset. Right. And so we can just like get that going. And then, so that took me a few years to get through all of that, studying that. But what I found is if we can get people to actually have a habit that makes them feel good, then we can actually change the mindset that they have around the things that they do. And what's really interesting is how many people can have an open mindset, an abundance mindset, or growth mindset in some areas of their life, and then a total fixed mindset in other areas. And
I love it. I was gonna say, I love it. You just joined us in cognitive development world.
Yeah, I did. I don't have a degree, so you will always be smarter than me. And please correct me if I say something wrong, but like in layman's terms, because that's what I know. If you're like, there are people who can have like can be so open and abundant in like how they see their work and the possibilities there, but then how they see what they're capable of with their body can be so fixed. Oh, I can't do push-ups. I've never been able to do that. Right. And it's like, but you literally just had a humongous meeting where you asked people for $1 million in your investment. You didn't think that sounds impossible. That sounds like a lot of work to me. And you don't think you can like bend your elbows. That's what it is. We're bending our elbows. And so really trying to figure out, how do I take that and show them where they have that abundance mindset, and so it's like, it's possible. You have it. It's already here. The muscle going for you. So yeah, it's more just like, I get really curious about people and why they do what they do. Maybe I should have gone into the brain stuff.
I mean, you are in the brain stuff.
Yeah, you are.
100%.
I mean, essentially,
we all the body.
Yeah, we all do the same thing, right? And what really comes up for me is when you're talking, especially when you're talking about connecting to yourself. We live in a world where we teach people that they need to, if they want to change something, that it's out of themselves, right? So in medicine, it's like, you want to control your blood pressure and diabetes, take pills instead of doing the work that you need to do on yourself, right? If you want to change the way your physique looks, go to a plastic surgeon instead of doing the work that you need to do on yourself, right? And I think what we're all doing is really teaching people that it's all within you. You are capable of creating the life, the health, the body that you want for yourself, but you just have to do the work.
Amen, brother.
I love the way you said that. And I think it's, because I remember hearing like, you have everything you need already. Like when you hear people say you're enough and you have everything you need, and you think about it, like before we had computers and technology and drugs, like people lived a long time on this planet.
Yeah.
Right. They lived a long time without these things. And so how it'd be any different today? And, but it's true. Like from every time they watch a TV show, they're being told, oh, do you have these 17 things? Here's a pill. And by the way, it's going to make you have 18 other things possibly, but you won't have that 17th thing. So
Yeah.
like I watch these ads, I'm like, does this TV even know who we are? Like, we're not taking, like, why do I keep getting this ad for this? Like, hello, isn't anyone listening? But it shows me like, this is what the general public is watching. And this is what they're being told.
Yeah, but
but
it also must work. Bernays,
right.
You have to thank this psychologist named Bernays for that. I think I always wonder how many people actually watch those commercials and then walk into the doctor and say, hey, I want that pill.
Oh, a lot of people do.
Oh, heck yeah. That's why they do it. That's why they spend less and less money on it.
Listen,
my mom.
People come to me all the time. They're like, I want this. I'm like, you can just work out, right? You can just take out soda from your diet,
Yeah.
And let's be clear, always clear to our listeners that we're not saying go throw your pills out. Right. But start
out and take medical advice from a podcast.
What else? What within me, when you go and the doctor recommends this, or if you have them, start asking those questions. If this came from within me, what's one tiny thing I could do? Lesley, could you run through for our listeners a real basic Cliff Notes or 101 on habits, like the key steps to developing strong habits?
Yeah, habits are, it's really awesome how easy a habit is made. You do not have to do 21 days or 72 days. I heard someone say it like after 72. No, you don't. Like, are you kidding? Who has the time for that? So here's the Cliff Notes. So first of all, you can thank BJ Fogg for this. He is from Stanford's behavior science department. He has a book called Tiny Habits. So I got to study with him. And if you're like, who is he? Because I've heard about this other guy. So there's a lot of other people. He trained, and he also was the teacher for the founders of Instagram. So if you're wondering, how did I get addicted to my social media? They actually know habits are made, and it's really easy.
This way.
Yeah.
Great. Say that. Tell it down this way. What have they done for us to create the habits of constantly going to that puppy?
Yeah. So what they did was the original Instagram used to be 3 button touches to get your picture up. And why does that matter? Because as soon as you get your picture up, then you got likes. And when you get likes, your brain's like, oh, look, people like my stuff. It's affirmation, right? So it's a celebration. So let me tell you how habits are made. It has to be easy to do, and you have to want to do it. So it can't be something that other people do. You're like, oh, maybe I should do that. It has to be something you inherently want to do, and it has to be easy for you to do. And then you have to feel good about it. And so here's what happens. People are like, I want to be a runner. And then they go to try to run a marathon because they're like, I'm going to go run for 20 minutes, but they haven't ran for years, and it's awful and it feels gross. And then the next day they feel bad. Like, well, I can't run today because so then they're like shaming themselves, right? So you'll never shame and guilt yourself into a habit you want, period. It's not going to work. What you have to do is you actually have to celebrate. And this is going to feel really weird for the perfectionists and overachievers in the room, but you have to celebrate that you did the thing that you wanted to do. And if you can't do the thing, you have to celebrate when you think about doing it. Celebration can be a lot of different things. Philippe can tell us all the different ways we can turn on that part of our brain, but it's like you can dance with your kid. You can high five yourself. You can say, I'm amazing. That's why I say it in the morning. You can do a little dance. It can't be a reward. Like, it can't be like, oh, when I do this, I'll go buy a pair of pants. Or I'll go get a massage. Rewards are very different than celebrations. Rewards tend to happen too far away from the thing to build a habit. So it can't be like, if I go for a walk every single day this week, I'll go to the spa. No, you won't create a habit that way. It has to be literally in the moment. So if you are wanting to make a habit of doing Pilates with me, okay, let's use that as an example. My classes are 30 minutes. If you've not worked out for 30 minutes in a long time, that's going to be really hard for you. And I'm not saying don't do it, but what I would say is let's make it so that you set the timer for 10 minutes. And if you keep going when the timer is off, it's extra credit. So my overachievers in the room, you can take that. But the 10 minutes is the goal. Now, if that's too much, you miss a day or two, then let's go to 5 minutes. What if we actually make the habit logging in and pressing play? And then if you do any exercises, we have to get the habit in there. So the first thing is you have to want to do it. Second thing is it has to be achievable. And if you get it wrong, just make it smaller. Third thing, you have to celebrate. Now, If you really, really, truly want to make something a habit, you actually want to have a prompt. The prompt cannot be a bell, like a ding on a calendar. It has to be something you're already doing in your life. And so think about, you're like, I don't have that many habits. Yes, you do. Do you brush your teeth every day? That's a habit. Do you eat breakfast? Do you make coffee? Do you walk the dog? There are things you do already, right? That are just happening. And so what I would say is like, write down 5 to 10 things you do every single morning without even thinking about it. Write down things you do in the middle of the day, and then write down things you do at night. And then take the thing you want to be a habit and put it after something you already do, so that thing is the prompt. So it has to be specific. It can't be when I get home from work. It has to be like, when I go into the garage, I will do this. Like after, BJ says in his book, after I flush the toilet, I will do 3 wall push-ups. Has to be very specific, and you really want the habit and the prompt to be pretty close to the same room. Like if you put your purse down in the entryway, but you have to go upstairs and down the hall for the habit, you want to get something a little closer to that, but you want the prompt. And now, you didn't ask this, but we'll talk about really quickly. If you think you have a bad habit, you're wrong. There's actually no bad habits. You only do things that make you feel good. Even if you don't think it makes you feel good, even if you like hate that you eat cookies every day because you feel bad about it, there's something about those cookies that's telling your brain that you feel good about, like that you go to it for something, for some sort of security, love, like boredom, whatever it is, relief you get. So you have to actually unravel the habit. You cannot break it like a stick, because it got there somehow. So you have to figure out, what's the prompt, what's happening, what's the thing that's telling me it's time to go watch TV, or I'm going to play a video game right now. And if we can remove the prompt, it's pretty easy to get rid of the habit. But you do need to put something else there. So if you're trying to stop eating candy at your desk, don't just get rid of the candy. That's actually going to create a vacuum, and you'll binge out. You'll actually just go to a vending machine and get worse candy. So instead, put something in the desk that you can eat. So you're still having that, and you don't just didn't create a vacuum that's going to, like a black hole that's going to suck more in. So that's the nutshell, the Cliff Notes version of how to create a habit, and also how to identify a bad one and unravel it.
So basically, I get to put back my nightstand of snacks that are healthy snacks.
Yeah.
Back in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've already unraveled it, let's stay there. But if you're struggling with it, just replace it with something else for you to do. And that's also a good way to unravel it. Mm-hmm.
What came to mind for me is, how many people are going to stop flushing the toilet, Doug?
I thought about that too. I thought the same thing. I was like,
I'm like, damn.
After you, they'll just the toilet flushing is like the prompt for something terrible. Well, then I would definitely replace it with something else.
Yeah.
So you can keep flushing the prompt.
I love it. Hey, Lesley, I want to come back before, I know we have to wind up a bit, but tie a couple things in. You said earlier you needed to be more specific about your request, about what you wanted to live into. Now, of course, you didn't really, though Doug wants to blame it on you, or Philippe, somebody wants to blame it on you that COVID happened and the pandemic and all of that. But that specificity, as you were talking about the habits, dialing in on what you said you were going to do and celebrating the integrity of that. So you come in, you said 10 minutes, do 10 minutes and commit to that, or commit to signing on. And the focus is the brain. The brain may want to look at, but I'm not there yet. But it's truly, what did I say I was going to do? To log in and hit play. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Find it in you to actually celebrate that 1 minute. You might actually want to stay for 5 minutes now because you've done that, or not. It's not you're supposed to. It's not about what is not done yet. It is truly celebrating that. So your brain wants to come back tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's something that wasn't natural for me. So if you're like, must be easy. No, I had to get really good at changing the words. I can't do this yet. I only did 5 minutes. That's awesome. Way to go. You're going to have to, and y'all know, the subconscious is really malleable. Everybody it doesn't forget anything, but you can change it with more happy thoughts. And so you just have to be your own cheerleader. And that's really freaking hard if you have never done that for yourself. So be kind, and do and it's okay. I don't know why people quote Yoda, there's no try, there's only do. There's a lot of try. And it's okay to try. And I know the Star Wars people are gonna freak out on me, but seriously, the best you can do that day is enough. and I wish more people had been told that.
Well, and what I would argue on that, because I think I've even said that to Doug, there is no try, because when we say try, then we don't get specific. I'm going to try and go do it. No, again, if the best you can do is today, I am committed to 5 minutes, then you've done it. Yeah. It's not, I tried and I should have done more. So I think that there is some argument in there on what is my 10 out of 10 today. My kids are super sick or whatever is happening, instead of, well, I'm going to try to, or I could have, or I should have, or blaming the external. Okay, my kids are sick, and yes, I'm going to move for 5 minutes.
And that's a great word.
And that's what it is. That is, yeah. And is a beautiful word.
It's a great word. I've been trying to replace but with and as a new thing. And it's really, so it's like, I read We Shall Be Millionaires, and it's like, instead of saying, I want to go on a great vacation, but I'm broke, you say, I want to go on a great vacation and I don't have any money.
Yeah.
Okay.
What am I going to do about it?
They can both exist and you can still have it. Yeah. Yeah. I love it. And this is, again, it's about being specific. So I don't know. I hope we all can do that a little bit more.
Yeah.
All this conversation leads me back to where we have to, or at least not we, I want to ask you this question about, the brain, right? So if you got to like put a chapter in the book that's the manual for how a human's brain works, what chapter are you putting in?
Prioritization of self.
How to program the prioritization of self into this brain. I like it. All right.
Yeah. Is that research for a book you're writing, Doug? Now you're adding a chapter to it.
No. I was just thinking about it because in what we do,
Lesley, Logan.
Yeah.
No, I think that, there's a saying goes that like our brains should have, it's the most complex thing ever. Yeah. Right. And it doesn't come with a manual. And so we're talking about things about like, okay, if you want to shift this is how you shift, but it's not like it's intuitive thing. So just like a complicated thing that you'd buy from IKEA, you need to look at the instruction set to be like, okay, I need to do this next in order for this outcome. And so similarly, I think if more people knew that there are some, particular handles on how they would perform, to have some particular outcomes in life, we would probably not be in the world of trouble that we so often find ourselves in as a society.
Yeah. Well, and I think like, just so if people are like, why did she say that? We didn't talk about that all. We talked about this whole time. You prioritizing your movement, you prioritizing the work that you need to do on yourself. It's going to make you literally have a mindset that allows you to have boundaries, allows you to be aware of like how you're feeling today. Stacey mentioned her kids being sick. You cannot take care of a sick kid if you're exhausted. If you don't prioritize yourself, it's impossible. You're just going to end up sick. And then what? Now you're down. So I think like when it comes to the brain, like the more we prioritize ourselves and stop thinking that selfish is a bad word, but like actually like part of us actually being who we are, it's going to allow you to really understand your mindset and all the other things that's going on with your brain and your body, because you're going to have an awareness. So many people like feel like you ask people, how long have you been feeling this way? And they can't tell you. Well, it's because they haven't been paying attention to themselves for so long. They don't know how long that's been there. Probably been there for a really long time. And so I think that prioritization of self has to be a chapter, because it is something that people can take action on, and they're going to feel freaking guilty doing it, but it's practice and you get better at it.
That's dope. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Tell the people where they could find you and your work.
Thank you. You can do Pilates with me at onlinepilatesclasses.com. If you want a free class, onlinepilatesclasses.com/free. And you can listen to me on the Be It Till You See It podcast. You can also listen to Philippe on the Be It Till You See It podcast episode. It's a good one.
Yeah, I was going to tell people, you should have just said, just Google my name, Lesley Logan. I am number one on Google. You will not.
Got good SEO going on.
I know. Lesley.
Yeah, that's right. Anyways, all right. Well, Lesley, thank you. We appreciate the conversation. Thank you for putting us up on game, especially when it comes to Pilates. Now, I may have to give it a little bit of a try.
I'm like, I need to go give that thing a try.
You all should. Let's do it. Yeah.
It's good stuff. It is hard. It's good.
It's not easy because especially on the mat, you only have yourself.
Yeah.
Like you don't have any other help, right? When you but that's okay. Because then you're like, oh, look what I did today. I couldn't do that yesterday. So it's a really easy way to celebrate yourself.
Yes. We can all do hard things.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Lesley. It's been a joy.
Thank you.
Yes, man. Well, guys, you guys have been listening to the Brain Profits Podcast. Until next time.
See you guys.